This short video is all about how children grow and change, and also how there can be lots of differences and variation at different ages. We'll also hear from a paediatrician about child development and when parents should be concerned and where or who they should ask for help. Finally, we'll look at what you as a carer or professional can do to support the overall development of your child, and if you're referred to a child development clinic, what to expect. So, firstly, let's have a look at all the different changes that happen at different stages throughout development.
This is a video about child development. Between birth and 2 years of age, children go through a fast rate of growth. They learn to sit, crawl and walk, and they communicate typically through crying and making sounds. Between 6 and 12 months of age, children become more aware of their feelings. And between 12 and 18 months, young children begin using single words, such as mummy, daddy, or biscuit. Between the ages of 2 and 5 years, children begin to develop their sense of self. They become more mobile and begin climbing and throwing. A child might know 50 or more words by the age of 3, and they begin to ask questions around this age, such as what, where, or who. By the time a child is around 4 or 5 years old, we can expect them to engage in a simple two-way conversation. Socially and emotionally, a child between the age of 2 and 3 years might get more extremes of emotions and behaviours, and at 3 years old they become more aware of things to be afraid of. They might struggle to sit still, and they might struggle to see each other's points of view. And at this age they're becoming more independent. They might play alone or alongside others. Between the ages of 6 and 11, children are beginning to learn more about the world around them. Their speech becomes more fluent between the ages of 6 and 7, and they become more able to communicate their feelings, although they still need help if they're distressed or anxious. Children at this age can also listen for longer periods of time. From the age of 6 years, children begin to separate more from their carers and develop friendships, and the ability to share during play will develop. The attention span of children at this age can still be short, but it is improving. At the age of 7, children are developing a sense of time and might like learning about facts. And between the ages of 9 and 10 years, their independence continues to increase. Thank you for watching.
You can find more information about child development on various other websites such as the BBC and Tiny Happy People and the Derby and Derbyshire Emotional Health and Wellbeing website. Now we've heard about how children develop at different ages, let's see what one of our paediatricians has to say and when a parent or carer might be more concerned and where they should ask for help.
So, when should a parent be worried about their child's development?
So we're often asked about what is normal for child development, and this is not always an easy question to answer. Parents will be worried about their child for a range of reasons, and these should be listened to and taken seriously. Sometimes parents might compare the development of their child to that of another child or to a sibling, though in actual fact both might be following a typical or normal developmental pattern, or the converse could also be the case. There are other times when a child might show delays or impairments across all developmental domains, and we sometimes refer to this as a general or global developmental delay or impairment. This could include difficulties with movement patterns or motor skills, their walking, difficulties with talking or language skills, or with their understanding of what is said to them. It could include difficulty in manipulating items, the fine motor skills, items in their environment, hand movements, play skills. And some children in this category might go on to have longer term significant difficulties, though some would actually show a significant degree of developmental catch-up if the impairment has not been a severe one. Some children would be delayed in only one domain, such as speech and language difficulties or their motor skills, such as their walking. These should again be taken seriously, as some children within this group may later be diagnosed with a significant neurodevelopmental disorder, though others might turn out as being fine on the longer term and will require to be monitored, of course. So the important thing is to recognize when there's potentially a difficulty, to be able to monitor and track the developmental stages relative to the age expectations, and to seek early assessment in the first place via the health visitor or GP, who are trained to recognize when there could be a cause to be worried, or alternatively might reassure the family or watch for a little while. If referral to the Child Development Service is required to see the paediatrician or speech and language therapist or other practitioner, the GPs are well placed, or the health visitors for the younger children, and they are familiar with the process for making such referrals. So we would usually be very concerned about children who have developed advanced skills and who then lose those skills. Some of them would require to be seen urgently. The clinicians would make a judgment regarding this based on their assessment or the referral concerns expressed at the time of the referral.
So what if a parent is not sure but there is nothing obvious? Who should they check it out with? It is so natural to compare your own children all the time to others.
Okay, that's another really good question. I think I've probably addressed part of that already, but the first point of call should always be with the health visit for the younger child or the GP across all the ages, and they should be able to take a focused view of the child's development against what they might expect to see for a child of the same specified age. There are developmental milestone references that clinicians, ourselves as paediatricians inclusive, would often make reference to.
How do you know what is normal and what is not?
So there really is not one fixed level of development that would be considered to be normal or typical for a specified age, but rather we'll refer to what we consider as whether the child falls within the expected or typical range for the age, and also whether the way in which the child undertakes the developmental milestone, such as talking, walking, or the behavior, for instance, is undertaken in the usual pattern or usual sequence as expected.
Thanks. And where should parents go to get help? Who should they talk to?
So parents should hopefully feel able to access the health visitor or GP, or in the much earlier stages, first few days of life, the midwife. And when they do have concerns about the health and well-being of their child in the community.
So what can you do to support your child's development? Firstly, there is a need for consistent boundaries and routines, particularly around areas such as sleep and meal times. Everybody needs some consistency in their life so that it's more predictable. If life is too chaotic, children can become anxious or feel insecure. Things need to happen at a relatively regular time with similar routines. Supporting children's play skills is really important in helping the development of relationships and social skills. There are lots of different types of play, and sometimes as grown-ups we might feel a bit daft, but getting messy, engaging in make-believe play, building and making things, cooking and arts and crafts are all great ways to support lots of skills and overall development. Supporting children to play with and then alongside other children is also really helpful, as it provides the building blocks to social skills. Finally, another key area is supporting your child's communication. As we know, communication is a two-way process, and it involves your child learning to express themselves so they can speak or communicate in some way to another person, and also being able to understand what others are saying or is requested of them. Again, communication is key to learning and development and helps children to play, make friends, and to share their feelings, interests, and make their needs known. Parents frequently ask what they can do to support their child's communication. This is a really good question, and there are a few things that all carers can do, regardless of the age or stage of development of that child. Providing regular opportunities to communicate is really important. And sometimes we might need to make extra time for things like reading books, pointing and noticing things with your child. Communication can also happen if we're playing with our child. Another tip is to simply say things such as, "Tell me more, what happened next?" or "Show me and tell me about it." Sometimes we might need to make our language simpler to understand and not expect too much. For some young people with developmental delay or language difficulties, it's really important to use visual cues such as pictures or symbols to support understanding. If you do have concerns about your child's development, as the paediatrician has said, it's best to discuss this with your GP or health visitor to start with. If you do have an appointment at the Child Development Clinic, you'll usually be asked to give a detailed history, including questions about pregnancy through to any current concerns. This may be face-to-face or over the telephone. To help see how a child is developing, we would normally also ask for information from your child's educational setting and any other relevant services to help try and understand what is the reason for the difficulties. An interview or observation of your child will also, of course, be carried out. Just as child development varies so much, so can the assessment, depending on what the concerns are about. Sometimes we may be able to come to a conclusion quickly about the cause of any difficulties, and sometimes it may take a lot longer. Some young people will end up with a diagnosis, but for others we may have to wait and see how the young person further develops. Although this may be frustrating, it is better to wait and monitor the child's development to get a better understanding of any concerns and difficulties. We hope that this video has given you a useful introduction into children's development and how it can vary, when to be concerned and what you should do, and also what you can do to support your overall child's development. There are lots and lots of useful information and resources on the internet, but please remember, if you're concerned, always speak with your GP or health visitor.